have a problem. We watch too many horror movies. I know this, you know this. But here's what I've realized after all of these hours in the dark. Most people are watching the same films. The same titles get recommended over and over again. But there is this entire second shelf, a shadow library. These are films that are genuinely disturbing and genuinely brilliant, yet most people have never even heard of them. Today, I want to talk about 8 of them that deserve a lot more attention than they get, because these movies did something to me. Some of them stayed in my body like a splinter I couldn't reach. Some of them made me change small, stupid behaviors, things I didn't even notice I'd changed until months later. That's the mark. That's how you know a horror film actually worked. So let's go, in order of how much sleep they cost me. 1. The Changeling, 1980. I want to start here because The Changeling is the most unfairly forgotten film on this list. This is a movie that understands something most haunted house films don't. Grief is the thing that opens the door. Not curiosity, not trespassing, grief. George C. Scott plays a composer who moves into a massive Victorian mansion after losing his wife and daughter in a car accident. And the house is haunted, yes, but the haunting feels less like a threat and more like an echo. Like the house is trying to tell him something. Like it needs him specifically because he already knows what loss sounds like. There's a scene involving a wheelchair. I'm not going to describe it in detail because if you've seen it, you already flinched. And if you haven't, I want you to experience it clean. What I will say is that it's one of the most effective single images in horror history. Slow, inevitable, quiet. The film doesn't scream at you. It sits beside you. I watched this film during a week when I was already feeling disconnected from everything, which was probably a mistake in hindsight. Afterward, I found myself paying strange attention to old houses. Not fear exactly, more like suspicion. Like buildings might be trying to tell you things, and you're just not listening hard enough. That feeling hasn't completely gone away. 2. Dead Calm, 1989. This one is different. Dead Calm is not supernatural. There are no ghosts. There is no cosmic dread. What there is, however, is a man on a yacht in the middle of the ocean who is absolutely, completely wrong. And the moment you understand that, the film becomes one of the most suffocating experiences cinema has to offer. Sam Neill and Nicole Kidman play a couple on a sailing trip trying to recover from a family tragedy. They find a sinking ship. They rescue the one survivor. You know within 10 minutes that this is a catastrophic decision, and you will spend the next 90 minutes unable to look away. What the film understands is that isolation amplifies everything. When you are in the middle of the ocean and something is wrong, there is nowhere to go. No option to just leave. No background noise to break the tension. The threat is right there, in a sealed space, and so are you. 3. In the Mouth of Madness, 1994. Among Carpenter's filmography, this one often gets overshadowed, which is wild because In the Mouth of Madness is one of the most intellectually interesting horror films ever made. It is a film about what happens when fiction starts to become more real than reality. When a story's audience grows large enough, does the story start writing itself? Sam Neill, yes, again, the man had a remarkable run in the 90s, plays an insurance investigator looking for a missing horror novelist whose books seem to be driving readers insane. What follows is a slow dissolution of everything stable: reality, memory, authorship, sanity. All of it starts to come apart in ways that feel genuinely philosophically disturbing rather than just visually weird. There's a line in this film that I think about more than is probably healthy. The idea that if enough people believe something, it becomes true. Not metaphorically, literally. The belief itself becomes the architecture of reality. I watched this film during a period when I was spending a lot of time online, and I don't think the timing was accidental in terms of why it hit me so hard. The internet does something similar. It blurs the edge between narrative and fact until you can't find the seam anymore. Carpenter made this film in 1994 and somehow described 2026 exactly. DeFore. The Lift, 1983. Okay, The Lift. I need you to understand that this Dutch film is about an elevator that kills people. That's the premise. A malfunctioning elevator in a modern office building starts killing its passengers in increasingly creative and horrible ways. What director Dick Maas does with this premise is genuinely impressive. He commits completely. The film has a real sense of dread about it, and almost anxiety about technology and the body. Elevators are, when you think about them, incredibly vulnerable spaces. You step into a metal box, the doors close. You surrender all agency to a machine. The older I get, the more I think the film isn't really about an elevator. It's about trust. about how much of modern life depends on systems we barely understand but use every single day without hesitation. And maybe that's why the movie still works. The technology has changed, the anxiety hasn't. I now take the stairs whenever it's a reasonable option. I tell myself it's for exercise. It is not for exercise. 5. The Dark Half, 1993. Stephen King adaptations are everywhere, but The Dark Half gets quietly skipped over, and I think it's because it asks something uncomfortable of its audience. It asks you to consider whether your darker impulses are a separate person living inside you, and whether that person might be more alive than you are. Thus, Timothy Hutton plays a literary author whose violent pseudonym starts manifesting in the real world after he publicly kills off his pen name. The pseudonym, The Dark Half, wants to keep existing, wants to keep writing, and it turns out to be considerably more capable of violence than its creator. The film is about the part of yourself you cultivate in private and then try to put away, the part that knows things about you that your public self wouldn't admit. There's something genuinely unnerving about watching a character horrified by their own creation, their own voice, their own rage externalized, and walking around demanding to be fed. I think about this film whenever I write something angry and then delete it. I think about all the deleted drafts. Where do they go exactly? 6. Christie, 2014. Christie is a film I recommend to people who say horror movies don't scare them anymore. It's a home invasion film, or rather a campus invasion film, and it operates on pure, stripped-down terror. No mythology, no monster, just people who have decided that a specific type of person needs to die, and they call that type Christie. A college student staying alone on campus over Thanksgiving break becomes the target of a group with an ideology so thin and so bleak, it almost doesn't matter, which is the point. The ideology is a frame, the violence is the point. And the film puts you so completely inside the protagonist's perspective, her confusion, her resourcefulness, her refusal to simply accept what's happening, that by the end you feel genuinely wrung out. What Christie gets right is randomness. The protagonist didn't do anything. She was just there, accessible. And that's the particular genre of fear this film traffics in. The fear that your safety is not a result of anything you did or didn't do. It's just luck. And luck is not a plan. 7. Nocebo, 2022. Nocebo is recent enough that I feel like more people should have seen it, but it slipped through the cracks. An Irish-Filipino co-production, it follows a successful fashion designer and her family after a strange woman shows up at their door claiming a connection to them. A connection that pulls the film into Filipino folk horror and curse mythology in ways that are both deeply respectful and genuinely horrifying. The nocebo effect, the medical phenomenon where negative expectations cause harm, the dark mirror of the placebo, is the film's central metaphor. And it's a brilliant one. Can a curse hurt you if you believe in it? Can guilt make you sick? Can the harm we cause others find its way back to us through channels we'd never accept if they were spelled out plainly? This film left me thinking about supply chains, about the invisible labor inside ordinary objects, about how disconnected we are from consequence. That's a heavy lift for a horror movie, and Nocebo carries it without flinching. 8. Getaway, 2024. I'm ending with Getaway because it is the most recent and the one I'm still processing. It is a horror comedy in the vein of Ready or Not, but sharper and meaner and more willing to commit to its ugliest implications. A family vacation goes wrong in ways that keep escalating past the point you think the film will stop. What I love about Getaway is how precisely it maps anxieties that feel very specific to this moment. The performance of family, the violence underneath normalized social rituals, the way we smile through things that should make us scream. The horror isn't just external, it's baked into the institution itself. There are scenes in this film that made me laugh and then feel immediately terrible for laughing, which is exactly the kind of tonal manipulation that horror comedy should be doing, but rarely pulls off. It's a film that knows exactly how uncomfortable it wants you to be and engineers that discomfort with real precision. And those are 8 horror films that deserve far more attention than they get. If you've seen any of these, let me know which one stayed with you the longest. And if there's a forgotten horror film you think more people should know about, leave it in the comments. I'm always looking for something that might cost me a little more sleep. Until next time, keep the lights on or don't.